If you've ever had a project that was so broken you had to scrap the entire thing and start over, you have a feeling for what we're about to dive into.
Right.
We're exploring a moment when the vast Roman Empire almost totally collapsed. It's known as the crisis of the 3rd century.
And it really was a crisis. I mean, for about 50 years, there was just constant chaos. The government was a mess.
A mess is putting it lightly.
Yeah. Generals were constantly fighting to become emperor, which, created these endless, brutal civil wars.
And while all that's happening inside the empire, the borders are under attack.
Exactly. You've got tribes in the north, powerful enemies in the east. It was a disaster on all fronts.
So with all the fighting, the economy just crashed.
It completely collapsed, trade stopped, and the government made the money so worthless that people stopped using it.
It got so dangerous that cities had to build these thick new walls just to protect themselves. The Roman peace was definitely over.
And into this absolute nightmare, a strong military commander named Diocletian finally takes charge in 284.
And he looks at this broken empire and realizes the whole system is the problem.
Yeah, he decides the only way to save it is to completely change how it's run. A total restart.
So Diocletian's big idea was that the empire was simply too big for one person to handle.
Right. He creates this new system called the Tetrarchy.
That sounds complicated.
It sounds it, but the name is Greek and it just means the rule of 4 leaders.
Okay, so a rule of 4. How did that work?
Well, he split the empire into 2 main halves, east and west.
And each half had its own leader.
Each half was led by a senior emperor, and he held the title of Augustus.
The Augustus. So he's the top guy.
Exactly. And then, to help him, each Augustus appointed a junior emperor called a Caesar.
So you have 2 Augustes and 2 Caesars. That's your 4 rules.
That's your 4.
What's so brilliant about that? I mean, isn't that just creating more people who might want to be in charge?
But the genius of it was in the succession. It was designed to stop the civil wars. The Caesar wasn't just an assistant. He was the official heir. So when an Augustus retired or died, the Caesar would automatically become the new Augustus.
And then he'd appoint a new Caesar.
Exactly. It creates a clear line of succession. No more fighting over who's next. It's already decided.
Okay, that makes sense. So Diocletian divides the empire. He has to pick a side.
He does. He takes the eastern half.
Why the East?
It was wealthier. It had more big, important cities, and, it was just more dynamic at the time. He set up his capital in a city called Nicomedia in modern-day Turkey.
And the western half?
That went to his trusted co-ruler, Maximian. He governed from cities like Milan, which kept him close to the really dangerous borders along the Rhine and Danube rivers.
But I think it's important to point out that even though it was split in 2, it was still officially one empire.
Oh, absolutely. The laws were supposed to be the same everywhere. It was a practical solution. It let the government react much faster to problems.
So no more waiting for a message to travel all the way from Italy.
Right. And that's also why Rome itself stopped being the political center.
That's a huge change.
It is. The 4 rulers lived in these strategic frontier cities to be closer to their armies and, well, to the actual fighting.
So you had Nicomedia in the east.
And Sirmium, also in the east. Then in the west, you had Mediolanum, that's Milan, and Augusta Treverorum, which is now Trier in Germany.
And these cities became the new centers of power.
Totally. They were transformed with grand buildings, palaces. It was a very clear signal that power wasn't just in old Rome anymore. Rome was now just, a symbolic capital.
Okay, so you've got this new government structure. You've got 4 rulers and 4 new capitals. That all sounds expensive.
Incredibly expensive. And Diocletian also massively boosted the military.
He increased the number of soldiers.
Greatly increased them. But more importantly, he made the army more flexible. He split it into 2 different types of units.
Okay, what were they?
First, you had the border units. These guys were stationed permanently in forts right on the frontier. They were the first line of defense.
A kind of tripwire.
Exactly. And then you had the mobile units. These were elite, fast-moving armies kept further inside the empire. They could rush to any major trouble spot.
So they could respond to big invasions.
Right. He also built a lot of new roads and forts to help them move faster.
But again, this must have cost a fortune. How did he pay for it all?
With a brand new tax system, a very, very strict one.
How did it work?
Well, it was based on the amount of land people earned and the number of people who worked on it. It was incredibly detailed.
So they were counting every person in every field.
Every person, every animal, every inch of land. It gave the state a predictable income, but people really did not like it.
I can imagine. But what are the other economic problems, the runaway inflation?
Right, the worthless money. He tried to fix that with something called the Edict on Maximum Prices.
So he just set the prices for everything.
Pretty much. He made a law that set a legal limit on how much merchants could charge for essentials. Food, labor, clothes, you name it.
And what was the punishment for breaking the law? Wow. He was not messing around. Did it work?
Not really, no. It was a complete failure.
Why?
Because you can't just outlaw supply and demand. If a merchant couldn't sell something for a profit, they just wouldn't sell it publicly.
So things disappeared from the markets.
Exactly. It just created a huge black market where people sold goods secretly for their real inflated prices.
So on top of all these structural changes, Diocletian also changed what it meant to be the emperor.
Yes, this is a huge cultural shift. He wanted the emperor to seem majestic and almost godlike.
How did he do that?
He started wearing these expensive robes of silk and gold covered in jewels. He even wore a diadem, which is like a crown. It was very different from earlier emperors who tried to act like regular citizens.
So it was all about presentation.
The whole thing was theater. Visitors had to follow strict rules, including bowing down low in front of him. It was meant to make the government seem powerful and stable after decades of, chaos.
And the art from this period often shows the four rulers looking almost exactly the same.
Right, to emphasize their unity. The message was, this is a team. It's a single, unbreakable force.
But this idea of the emperor as a godlike figure, that put him in conflict with some of his subjects,
A
right?
huge conflict. Diocletian strongly believed that to keep the empire safe, everyone had to worship the traditional Roman gods.
And that was a big problem for Christians.
A massive problem. Christians only believed in one god, so they refused to make sacrifices to the Roman one.
Which the government saw as disloyalty.
Exactly. This all came to a head in 303 AD with what's called the Great Persecution.
The government demanded that everyone prove their loyalty by making sacrifices.
And if you didn't, you were in serious trouble. Christian churches and books were destroyed, and many, many followers were arrested.
It was a brutal campaign to stamp out the religion.
It was. But despite all the violence, the Christian faith just kept spreading. It showed that you couldn't force that kind of conformity on the whole empire.
So after all this,
Yeah.
after completely remaking the empire, Diocletian does something almost no Roman emperor had ever done.
He quits.
He voluntarily gives up power. In 305, he retired because he was sick.
And he didn't just retire himself, he forced his co-ruler Maximian to retire with him. It was the ultimate test of his system. He wanted to make sure the succession plan actually worked.
Where did he go?
He moved to this enormous palace he had built in Croatia, and he spent the rest of his life, believe it or not, growing vegetables in his gardens.
The man who built this machine of absolute power just goes off to become a gardener.
It's an incredible image, isn't it?
He hoped a system would last, but it didn't, did it?
No, it fell apart almost as soon as he left.
Why so quickly?
Ambition. The sons of the rulers were angry that they'd been passed over, and they started claiming power for themselves.
So the Civil War started all over again. The exact thing he designed the system to prevent.
The exact thing. The fighting went on until a general named Constantine defeated everyone else and became the sole ruler of the empire by 324.
So the Tetrarchy itself was a failure.
As a system of 4 rulers, yes, it died quickly. But Diocletian's other reforms, they lasted.
Constantine kept them.
He kept almost all of them. The bigger army, the new tax system, and most importantly, that administrative split between East and West.
So in a way, Diocletian's restart did work.
It really did. His reforms were so effective that they kept the eastern part of the empire, what we call the Byzantine Empire, alive for another 1,000 years.
So the emergency restart might not have saved the whole thing forever, but it bought the Roman world a lot of extra time.
It absolutely did. So as you think about this, consider what it takes for a leader to build that kind of absolute power and then to just walk away from it all when they don't have to.
Good luck with your studies.